Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Peter Turnbull. I'm one of the owners and Chief Operating Officer here at ROI. Thank you for joining us this morning. Today we're going to talk about how we can use ROI Print Manager to help our customers reduce their print costs through rules-based printing. The webinar is going to be recorded, so if you miss anything or want to see it again, you'll receive an email notification to the recording. If you have any questions during the course of the webinar, please use the chat facility within the GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar control panel, and I'll try and answer as many of your questions as I can at the end of the call. So without further ado, hopefully you can see my screen, and hopefully you can hear me okay. Hopefully you can understand me, and we shall start. So ROI Print Manager is a product that's been about for quite a number of years now. Many of you may know the software as a tracking and assessment product. Historically, that's where we've played. We've also been a rules-based printing product, but over the last 18 months, we have introduced quite a wealth of new functionality to the software. And what you're basically seeing on the screen now is the various modules which we offer customers as part of the overall ROI Print Manager offering. The flexibility that we offer is that each of these modules can actually be sold and licensed individually. So it allows you to introduce a basic print and copy usage tracking offering to your customers, and then offer them the ability to upgrade or upsell them to functionality as and when it becomes relevant or important to them. Because typically we see a lot of customers simply using the software initially just to understand what they're doing within their environment. Although we don't really sell our software for a purely assessment-based offering, typically assessments are device-based, we can offer extended value to assessments for customers by tracking usage. So we're able to find out what customers are actually printing, the document types, the volumes that are specific to the individual, as well as what they're actually copying if we are connected up to the MFPs. So historically, we deploy the software and track what the users are actually doing, and then we can go back to the customer and offer them a number of recommendations about what they might want to do within their environment to make things more efficient or reduce costs. One of the first things that we're probably looking to do, especially to assist in the sale of MFPs, is move a lot of the output away from these locally attached or network print devices over to more cost-effective MFPs. That obviously helps you, the dealers, migrate that output over to the clicks that you're actually getting paid for at the end of the day. So we position that to the end user as a least cost routing strategy. So we can set up rules and notifications within the software that identifies when users are printing to certain devices or printing certain volumes, ranges, or over a certain number of pages. And we can pop up notifications to the user to either enforce a print rule or suggest what the print policy is within the organization, so that they can decide to kind of proceed as they are, or continue printing or change that print to the recommended device. So least cost routing is one of the kind of basic strategies that we not only help customers save money, but also help you, the dealers, transition output onto your devices that you're managing. Reducing color or controlling color is also important. I know we all want to have users printing more and more in color as it becomes more cost effective, but at the end of the day, the customer, the organizations are typically wanting to have controls within their software to manage who's actually printing what in colour. And we can do that with ROI. So we can either have enforcements, which we can apply to users or to print devices. We can also enforce that by application type. And the typical example here is email printing. So a lot of emails contain small bits of colour in them. If a user prints that normally, the driver will detect that colour and it will print the email as a colour job. So by tracking the usage of the software, we can identify the percentage of output that is being printed, such as email output, and you can offer that value proposition to your customers by making sure that if the users are going to be allowed to print emails, that at least they can actually print them in mono, in a draft or duplex quality, so that you're offering the maximum cost savings to the customer that they may require. The other alternative is to again simply provide a notification to the user to suggest that they might want to consider printing such document types or application types in a mono duplex mode. So we can offer both variations there. Another popular way to reduce costs is making sure that users are always printing in duplex mode. Obviously, you can default drivers to duplex, and that's one way of doing it without using any kind of print management software. But again, something that we learn from our customers is there actually are document types that, particularly in the legal environment, in the finance departments, that need to be printed in simplex mode. So simply defaulting all the printers to duplex isn't going to help them. It's actually going to cause them a bunch of problems. So the best way to do that, in our opinion, is to use ROI and to apply duplex rules to certain document types and certain groups of users. So we can differentiate right down to the individual user level to apply a rule or a print policy, or we can apply that to certain departments. We can exclude certain groups and certain departments from rules as well. So we offer that flexibility. So again, what we're offering here within our rules-based printing capabilities is a flexible way to meet the needs of the customer and apply rules and policies where they're needed, and allow those users or power users to be able to print what they want without having to be forced to do certain things as part of a more inflexible type of print management solution. I've touched on application rules and policies when I've talked about controlling colour, but we can apply any print rule or any policy to any specific application. Again, we touched on one email. Internet printing is another biggie. We see increasing amounts of people printing from the internet via the various browsers. So we can identify that through our print usage tracking. We can show the volumes to the customer, and then we can introduce application-based rules to help reduce that that particular cost. So again, we should see the rules engine more of an assistant to control the output environment rather than restrict what's actually happening within the output environment. So it's all about flexibility at the end of the day. And here you can see one of our pop-up messages or notifications that we provide to users. This is achieved through deploying our desktop agent to the user's device. So yes, it's going to be a desktop notification that appears on PCs and in Mac environments. Whether it's a desktop or laptop, that's kind of irrelevant as far as we're concerned. And we can also send email notifications. It's possible within the software, but probably not the most efficient way of notifying users. You're not really going to be checking your email when you're trying to print documents. So the pop-up notification or the message on the desktop is by far and away the easiest way to communicate to users what the actual rule or policy they've invoked is. No? So as I alluded to before, we have a number of modules within ROI Print Manager. The rules-based printing is a module that you can sell on its own, as it were, to the customer. Typically, the tracking module is a kind of baseline module that we sell all the time. It's always kind of key for everything else that we offer to be able to track what the users are actually doing. So so we offer a more cost-effective value for money solution for you to sell to your customers by the ability that we have to simply just license the individual modules that you want to sell. So for example, you don't need to sell them the whole pool printing embedded functionality that we also offer as part of the software suite. You just need to be able to sell the rules-based printing and quota management module. So as you would imagine, as I've alluded to before, we can provide print policies or enforcement rules. So we tend to differentiate between the two. Enforcement rules are where we are making things happen without the user being allowed to make a choice. Typically, it's things like duplex or color control that we're enforcing. So we're just informing the user about what's actually going to happen to the document that they're printing, and they can't override that. And the policy is more trying to affect user behavior. Sometimes end user organizations prefer to start off with print policies. They see maybe enforcement rules as being a bit too draconian or big brother type enforcement, so they want to try and suggest the changes to user behavior by providing them information through the notifications and the messages. We can set rules and define rules not only down to the user level, but at the individual print device level, as well as application types and print drivers. The user level also allows us to group users together by department, so we can utilize an organization's LDAP or Active Directory. When we're synchronizing with that, we can pull in their departments, and we can set up rules and notifications based on the organizational units within Active Directory. Makes it a lot easier to set up. And we offer the same functionality for print quotas as we do for rules. Okay. So here you can see the options we provide within the software. I'll give you a look at the admin interface in a moment. But as I said, there's two types of rules: policies and enforcement rules. So we can prevent the users from breaking any print rules. So here's a vanilla type desktop notification. As you can see here, we typically have a heading to the user or to the rule. Here we've got user rule. That's the heading we've applied to this particular notification. And in the area below there, we can provide a configurable message. This is something that that you or the customer themselves would actually define within the software. So all the real estate below here is open to you to provide any information that you want to communicate to the user. As I said, this is a standard ROI notification template. We can use a dealer brand, we can use a customer brand, and we would simply provide the dimensions and quality of the image. So this is typically a PNG image that we're using in the background that we can customize to the dealer or to the individual end customer if they would prefer. So this is what we can do with configurable desktop notifications. So what happens when a user actually prints a document that invokes a particular rule? Well, within the application itself, they would receive a pop-up message. This is a pop-up message of a user rule within Microsoft Word, for example. So here we've applied a threshold to that particular user that they cannot print documents between 1 and 3 pages. It's just an example, so excuse the crudeness of it. So this is the information that we have defined within the software. This is what the user actually sees. Here they can either proceed with the printing, or they can decide to cancel the print job. If they cancel the print job, obviously we're not going to track that print job or take any quota away from that particular user. The ROI agent is the desktop component that we use. It's deployed to the user's desktop, typically as a rolled out silent install, fairly straightforward to do, fairly standard for anyone who's IT literate. And certainly if it's larger organizations with larger user communities that have IT departments, it's a very familiar process to them. So we can either assist you to do that, you can do it yourself, or the end customer can do it fairly straightforward. And once the agent's actually deployed, it communicates back with the ROI server that's typically installed within the network of the customer, and any printing that's detected by that user is then communicated. A very small packet of data is transmitted up to the ROI server, and it's downloaded the latest rule configurations, and that helps offline modes detect what's actually happening at the user desktop level. Similarly, printer rules, very much the same. Printer rules we can deny access to certain individual printers, any kind of printer types. If you've got groups and types of printers within the customer environment, you can also apply different thresholds to specific printers. So, for example, you could say that you're not allowed to print anything over 5 pages to a locally attached device, so that the rules actually work with USB attached print devices as well as network printers, so we can apply rules for these devices as well. And in this particular example, we've got a threshold again, very simple. Anything printed to this printer that the user chose between 1 and 3 pages is not allowed in this case. But it's a policy, not an enforcement rule, so we're giving the user the option to proceed or cancel the job. Similarly, with an application rule, we've applied the application rule here to Microsoft Word, and again the rule is fairly straightforward. Anything printed from Word between 1 and 3 pages is not really allowed. But again, we have the flexibility to do various things, which I'll show you shortly. So, kind of aligned to rules is quota management. This is another way in which we can help organizations reduce their costs. We can apply various types of quotas. It can be a cost quota, so we can give the users a budget. The users we can give users a budget as part of a group. We can also assign costs to projects. So if it's a specific project, or maybe in the case of a kind of legal firm, it's a particular customer, for example, we can assign budgets to that. We can also assign budgets to, or quotas to, print devices as well. So again, we can apply anything that we're doing from a rules and quota management perspective to users, groups of users, projects, print devices, applications. It's all fairly flexible within the software. And not only can we apply cost quotas, we can also apply click quotas. So any clicks that you're measuring, it might fall in with a managed services type offering that you're providing the customer. We can align that to what you're doing from a click basis. We can also have it as a page, so slightly different definitions of a page over a click. And here we're offering color control as well. So we can offer users quotas based on their color jobs, their mono jobs, as well as whether it's print or if they're using our software in connection with an MFP, we can provide quotas on copy as well. So, so we can apply that as well. So I'll give you an indication of how easy it is to configure all this within the software itself. So I'm going to go into the ROI admin console. So it's a web-based or browser-based console. It's controlled by permissions. So we have various logins, and trying to actually remember the password here. So what you're seeing is actually all the functionality enabled. I'm logging into ROI as the admin, and we're just going to look at one of the specific functions within the software itself. So we're going to focus on rules. As far as configuring the software is concerned, we have the concept of agent rules and server-based rules. Agent rules are obviously the more flexible because you need the agent to be deployed on the desktop to inform the users about what's actually happening. You can offer a solution that's simply server-based rules if you want to enforce things like color control or simplex duplex. There we're typically offering enforcement rules. The users don't really know what's actually being applied. The information is being communicated in another way to them. Typically, you do need the agent for policies so that you actually have a mechanism to inform users about what's going on. The first thing we would do actually though would be to set up rule groups. Again, rule groups can be synchronized through Active Directory, so we can pull in different types of groups. If I create a new rule group here, you'll see that we have a wide range of different groups. Some of this is not relevant for rules, but for other functions within the software. But here we are looking at the groups that are defined specifically for rules. So we can define a user group. So that would be either individual group of users or something coming from Active Directory. We could group together print devices. We can group together drivers if you're trying to control things through drivers, typically trying to default drivers for certain functions. And we have application type rules. So depending on what you actually do here will depend what you actually see within the members area. So I actually have to save this first. So I'll just do the standard default test. So so here we've saved the new rule, and then if I go in here to the members, we are pulling across users or existing groups that we've created, and we can add the group to this this new rule set that we've created here. Okay. Once you've done that, you can then go into the to set up your specific rules here. We've created one rule already. This is an application rule. Unlike other products, we don't use or we don't need to use scripting for this. So we allow users of any standard of IT knowledge to be able to set up rules. We can actually use scripts within the software. So if you wanted to do things that are a bit more sophisticated than the basic rule sets that we offer, which as usual account for 90% of what end users actually want to do, we can still do any more complicated rules and policies by creating scripts and importing scripts. So that's within the software. So here we'll just use this existing option here. We can just go in and start editing it. The rule assignment is an application, but as I say, we also offer user, printer, driver, and global rules in this case that would apply to everyone and everything. We are picking out the the row groups. So here's the test group that we just created here. So that's how we would change that. If we go into the pop-up option, this is where you would define the content for the pop-up message. So we've got the heading here, and then we've got the narrative or the main content that we're going to make available. And if you're offering a different layout or different background image to the notification, this is where you would select this. So we've got a couple of templates here that are ROI templates. You can have as many templates as you want. You can apply different background images to different rules. So you can make it really personal or customized to your individual customer. Okay. Here we have an option of showing printers. So this is where we're typically invoking a printer-based rule, and we want to present to the users the alternative printers that they can choose. So in order to do that, we'd simply check this box here. Okay. So that's all about configuring the actual notification or pop-up message. The triggers is where we would define what the criteria is that invokes the particular message. So we're entering the page thresholds, so we can differentiate between mono and color page thresholds. So we would have a lower and an upper page. So if, for example, we wanted to create a rule, for example, that said anything over 5 pages would be printed to another device, we would simply say that the upper threshold here is 5. Okay, so you're allowed to print between 0 and 5 pages on this particular print device, and anything over 5 pages would be need to be printed on another print device. Okay. We also offer the ability for defining if the document was going to be single page or simplex or both pages, which is duplex. So again, that would invoke the rule. So here, if we are selecting both pages, then it doesn't matter if the document the user is printing is simplex or duplex, this rule would be invoked. And similarly, if we say any, whether it's color or mono, then it doesn't matter whether the user is printing in color or mono, we will invoke this rule, or rule, should I say. So all these options allow us to provide all the flexibility and all the rules that I've been talking about previously. So as you can imagine, that accounts for virtually everything most organizations want to do. If we're offering enforcements, which we've not defined here, then you would have some options here to create enforcements. So once you've saved that rule and you've applied that rule to the rule group, it's rolled out across the whole of the organization. You can define within the settings tab exactly who sees that. So with here we've got just a simple checkbox that says within the local agent that we want to apply rules. By checking that box, then all the local agents are now going to pick up the rules that have been configured here on the server. So again, that's a more efficient way of rolling out rules and policies to the desktop, so the agents are actually pulling down the configurations rather than us kind of pushing information out from the server, which in larger networks tend to be anything that we're pushing out tends to be shut down by routers that are not allowing broadcasting, or antivirus software that may believe that this is a virus attack on the network. So in designing our software, we're taking in these factors into consideration, so it's a lot more efficient. The other thing that I was talking about was quotas. Here you would in the main settings dialog, you would define whether or not quotas is something that you wanted to do. Down here you can see the quota mode, which is currently disabled. If you select here, you can define whether you want a cost quota, click, page, or color quota to apply across the board. So we might want to select a cost quota and save that. That then makes changes within the software, so certain menu options suddenly become visible to you. So here we can go into the accounting, and we now see the quota classes appear, which wasn't visible earlier if we didn't select the settings option. So within quota classes, we can define, again, a wide range of different quota classes. So by editing the software, we can select the various options open. We can go in and apply the cost quota here because it's a cost quota, and we can decide what the actual frequencies are. We would then go into the various cost models in this example, and we would define what the actual cost models are. And this is somewhat aligned to our cost recovery functionality as well. So here we're defining the various groups in which we're wanting to apply certain pricing models to. So again, within the software, from a quota perspective, it's just the same as a cost recovery model. We are defining pricing models, so we can specify to different groups of users how much they're actually going to be charged for different things that they're printing and copying. And we can break that down to a level of granularity that's quite detailed. So we can actually specify different costs for different paper sizes, for different sides of paper, for color, for mono. So we can do that here. We also cater for whether the job has been printed or copied. When our full solution has been deployed on MFPs, we can also apply costs for scanning and for faxing. So you can begin to think of the permutations that are offered there. So maybe as part of a managed service, you might want to offer charging for scanning and faxing, which traditionally we tend to overlook. So very powerful capabilities within the software for quota management, breaking it down by users, by groups, by printers, by applications, and the same thing for rules. So that's just a quick overview of some of the functionality of ROI Print Manager. I hope you found that of use, informative, and now happy to answer any questions that you might have. I'll just go on to the control panel here and see if you've got any questions at all. So I got one question here. What environments do we support? So the ROI software is server-based software. It runs on Windows machines. It supports virtual environments, so you can run it on virtual machines within the customer environment. Typically, it runs within the customer's own network. It can be deployed as a private network type solution, so we can communicate from within a distributed VPN type environment. It's currently not available as a public cloud-based solution. That's something that's in the works, but we don't really see a huge demand for it. Most organizations are looking for controls within their control rather than just some cloud-based service that is outside their control. The agent is currently available for Windows environments, and is some of the functionality is available, or the agent functionality is available on Mac environments. So so that's the typical deployment scenario. Can we use scripts? Yes, you can use role-based scripts if you're familiar with how to do that. And within the software, we allow the capability to read and run scripts. But typically, what we found when talking to our end users was they didn't want to have to write scripts. Scripts sometimes get a bit cumbersome and complicated, and the flexibility that we offer in the ability to just click various options for controlling color, applying rules to users and groups of users and print devices and applications is a lot more flexible than simply having to write scripts all the time, and allows just about anyone to configure the software. Okay, can this be used in conjunction with a pool printing type solution? Yes, as I kind of alluded to earlier, ROI Print Manager comes with a number of individually licensed modules. So you can choose to just license the modules that you want to sell the customer. So the kind of entry-level solution would obviously be print and copy usage tracking, or should I say print usage tracking, because you would need to deploy some of the ROI software on the MFP to actually track copy usage. We see a lot of customers just simply using the usage tracking and the rules-based printing. So they don't want to use the pool printing, and obviously the software can be deployed across a network printing type environment as opposed to just an MFP type environment. But our pricing model allows us the flexibility to price individual modules, but also we have bundles that combine multiple modules together, and certainly all the functionality is available there. Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time today. As I said, you'll get a copy of this presentation sent out to you in the next couple of days. If you've got any questions whatsoever, feel free to reach out to us. We're headquartered in Phoenix or Scottsdale in Arizona. We have offices in Austin, Texas as well, and despite the accent, that's where I'm currently based. And if you're further afield, over in Europe, we also have a regional European operations very close to London, so you can contact us there as well. Or simply drop us an email to sales@roiprintmanager.com, and someone will pick it up in whatever time zone you're in, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you very much for your time, and look forward to speaking with you soon. Cheers now. Bye.